Servicing the drum brake of a front wheel of a motorcycle. Hello and welcome to this session on servicing the drum brake of a front wheel of a motorbike. In the previous session, we have seen how to service the drum brake of a motorbike. In this session, we will learn how to service the drum brake of a front wheel of a motorbike. Before we go into the procedure, first let's take a look at the tools and materials. The tools and materials required are cloth for wiping, pliers, screwdrivers, large flat blade, Phillips, spanners and sockets in various sizes, lubricating oil, sandpaper 220 grit, brake parts if needed, and split pins. We will now see the steps involved. Place the motorcycle on the center stand on a flat, firm surface. Remove the front brake adjusting nut at the end of the cable by unscrewing it counterclockwise by hand. Loosen the set screw for speedometer cable and the cable will easily pull out by hand. Other motorcycles have a small plastic push or pull hand type disconnect that releases the cable. Remove the split pin on the axle nut. Remove the axle nut and attempt to pull the axle out of the chain side of the wheel. Twisting the axle while pulling on the plier helps. If it does not easily come out, hold a small piece of wood on the end of the axle and use a hammer to tap on the wood as needed to move the axle out. Remove the spacer. Remove the front wheel after the axle has been removed. Remove the brake panel by grasping it with both hands and pulling it straight toward you. Turn it over. Brake shoe dust may contain asbestos. Do not use compressed air or attempt to blow the dust away. Inhaled asbestos dust can cause cancer. Slowly wipe the inside of the drum on the wheel, the linings and the brake panel area. Discard the cloth after the exercise. Inspect the brake shoes for damage. Also inspect the brake shoes for cracks, pitting or chipping. Check the brake shoe springs for fatigue or damage. This is done by moving the arm which the brake cable was attached to and pulling on it. This turns the cam and stretches the springs. It also spreads the brake shoes apart. Do this several times to assure smooth movement of the shoes and springs. Measure the thickness of the brake shoe lining. It should be at least 2 mm thick. If the shoes are damaged or the lining is too thin, replace both shoes. Also inspect the brake cam for cracks and wear. Replace the brake shoes if needed. To remove the shoes, use a pair of long nose pliers to unhook one end of each retaining spring. Force the brake shoes out toward you and remove them by hand. At this point, clean and lubricate the brake lever arm with a cloth and few drops of oil. Also, put a small amount of grease on the cam surfaces. Any grease or oil on the brake shoes may cause brake failure. Keep grease off the linings. If the new shoes do not come with the springs, use the old springs by attaching them to the new shoes. Inspect your work by moving the brake arm back and forth and watching the shoes moving back and forth. Clean the brake drum in the front wheel using fine emery cloth or sandpaper, 220 or higher number grit. Use the sandpaper only in line with the wheel rotation and only on rusty or dirty surfaces. Wipe clean. Place the brake panel back into the drum with the lever arm pointing down. Raise the wheel and align it with the axle hole on the chain side. Slide the axle into place by hand as far as you can. Lubricate the axle with a little oil before installing it. Make sure the spacer goes back into place. If the axle does not slide in freely, try moving the wheel to better align it. As the axle comes out of the brake panel, make sure it is lined up with the hole in the frame. This prevents thread damage. Hand screw the nut into the axle. If any washers were removed while disassembling, reassemble them in the same order and place as before. Tighten the axle nut with a socket. Tighten the bolt and install a new split pin. Reinstall the front brake cable into the brake arm and screw in the lock nut until 20 to 30 mm of free play is reached. Reattach the speedometer cable. Test drive to check the brakes. Clean the work area, wipe off the motorcycle, and clean and put away tools. With that, we come to the end of this session. In this session, we have cleaned the brake drum, removed the brake shoes, cleaned, inspected and reinstalled them, disconnected and readjusted the brake cable, and removed the speedometer cable. Hope you have enjoyed this session. Thank you.